Carl, Tracey, thank you so much for joining us. I think that this is a session that everyone needs to know about, everyone here. We're talking about safety and lessons learned. And Carl, you gave a presentation and you also have a personal story. Tell us about that.
Sure. Tragically, 7 years ago, my mom, Realtor Beverly Carter from the Little Rock, Arkansas area, was targeted by a couple that posed as buyer clients. And they got my mom to a showing and kidnapped her with the intention of holding her for ransom because they perceived, like so many people do, that, real estate agents are just, so wealthy. And their plan didn't go as they thought that it would. And instead of just releasing my sweet mom, they ended her life. And ever since, been on this mission to help keep it from ever happening again.
Well, it wasn't just the personal story, obviously, which was horrible, but it also changed the conversation on safety in the real estate industry. Can you speak to that?
Sure. In a lot of ways, I don't fully understand how and why my mom, because there are so many other agents that have been victimized. And for whatever reason, hers caught that national news attention, and so it became more than just within our 1.5 million member family here. It became really a national conversation about that challenged this perception that rich realtors drive around in their cars all day and it's this super glamorous thing. It really opened, I think, a lot of eyes. I'll also say, though, I think a driver of that is that my mom was missing for so many days, almost a week.
Yes.
And so there was just this national outcry of where is this grandma? I mean, yes, my mom was beautiful and she looked very young, but at the end of the day, she was just my mama that made my birthday cakes and took care of my kids. So I think that also to that point, that because she represented the average realtor, she was 50 years old, female, and as people hear her story, I think that they see themselves in her. And so we've seen great strides made in safety tech, safety programs. NAR is doing a wonderful job. The site's better than it's ever been.
Right.
So good.
So Carl touched on this, Tracey, about how it's obviously his mom was in the news. She was missing. The story became so personal, but there's so many other agents who are being threatened, who have put themselves in harm's way or not even knowing they're in harm's way. Tell me, what your effort is and why it's also very personal for you.
Right. I have a twin sister who's a real estate agent. She and I got our licenses together about 35 years ago. I decided real estate sales wasn't for me, but she's still a real estate agent. She's active, hands-on, and involved. She is a landlord as well, a housing provider. And with the end of the eviction moratorium and the whole property rights movement, she was targeted. And so many in the industry have been because they want to get paid. And so she was threatened, and she continues to be threatened, and I am concerned about that. So that has been a driving factor in me creating safety programs for property managers, where I talk about how to have a safe eviction and how to do your job safely, especially in this environment, this anti-landlord environment. I have been in the safety education business for 26 years. I have seen stories come and go. Beverly's story stuck. It resonated. Different than any other story. It stayed in the headline and it's still here now, and it has impacted the way real estate agents do business. It's impacted my programming. Because there is not expert-led safety training in the industry, I made it my mission to step up and say, here I am. I live and breathe real estate safety. This is my full-time focused job. I do safety programs and I focus on real estate safety. And I also teach brokers, managers, and owners how to not get sued. Here's what you need to do to keep your agents safe, not only because it's the right thing to do, not only because the Department of Labor considers real estate sales and leasing a high-risk, hazardous occupation. Their job description reads that they make a living meeting complete strangers in empty houses. They make a living sitting in empty houses, waiting for strangers to walk in. So my job is not to scare them, but to remove some of the risk. Here's how you can do your jobs in a safer manner. Here are some actionable, realistic tips. I've done the job. I talk to thousands of agents a year, so I'm not going to tell them to do something I know they're not going to do. This is a commission-based business. If I tell them don't do open houses, they're going to ignore everything. So I say, here's how to do an open house in a safe manner. If I say don't show up alone, they're going to do it because they're trying to make a living. So I have to give them realistic and actionable ways to do their jobs.
Well, Tracey, give us some of those tips. I know we don't have time to go through all of them, but what are some of the maybe top 3 tips that you would give agents right off?
The number one thing I say without hesitation, and I say it in every safety program, is we have a built-in survival mechanism that's hardly ever wrong. Listen to it. It's your gut. It's your instinct, intuition, sixth sense, flight or flight. I've heard you call it spidey sense. Whatever you want to call it, we have that. And if we listen to it, we will not go wrong. But so often, in the interest of being polite, in the interest of chasing that commission, we brush that feeling aside. When we get that feeling in our stomach, our body's warning us, get out of the situation, figure it out, make an excuse or an explanation to come back to it. Number 2, don't judge a book by its cover. And that works in different ways. In your situation, they targeted Beverly because she looked like a rich agent. And so many agents out here are giving that persona. I am rich, I am successful, look at me. They're not thinking like a criminal. Criminals are looking and saying, aha, that's the rich agent. That's the one I want to target. So I am saying be alert and aware and don't judge the people that you work with. Oh, they look okay, or he's clean cut, or it's a couple, we're okay. I tell people, when we talk about the way people look, think about serial killers. Think about Ted Bundy. Clean cut, charismatic, good looking guy. If you judge that book by its cover, it would get you killed. Think about, oh, it's a couple, so we're okay. Remember Bonnie and Clyde? So I tell people don't judge a book by its cover. Number 3, safe practices. Implement safe practices at all times. That means you lead with safety. That's my theme song. So I say lead with safety. When you are talking to consumers, every conversation should have safety in it. My safety practices say that I need to meet you virtually at first, or we need to meet in a public place in my office, and that's for my safety. Sellers, here's how you can have your house safe and secure, keep your possessions safe while your house is on the market. Buyers, here are some resources that you can use to make sure you are looking for properties in an area with the crime rate that's good for you. And even FSBOs. I created a FSBO safety tip sheet. They don't know what they don't know. So I tell agents, lead with safety, always protect the consumer, and then let them know that you are working to protect yourself. Always talk about safety.
Wow, that's amazing. So, Carl, for you, though, you were not a real estate agent when your mom was a real estate agent. You became one after, which is amazing, right? I mean, you hear everything Tracey's talking about, and you did it anyway.
Well, and and I'll say even, to growing up a realtor kid, probably like so many of the kids of the people here at this conference, they're like, I don't want anything to do with that.
Right?
Well, with what Mama did or does, and so I always had that, hearing Mom's transactions and ups and downs. I was like, no thanks. But what happened because Mom's story was so public is that people began to outreach to me, or if I'd meet someone, and the human condition is to relate. And so they would share with me over and over and over, and Tracey, I'm sure you've experienced this, ways that they had been victimized. And it's all across the board. It's not just the homicides, it's assault and stalking and just what our female agents, just being a female in this social media age, regardless of industry, is just sickening. And so as it just continued, I began to more and more feel a responsibility to be a part of the solution. And so I made the decision to get my license, to really have street cred and know what I was talking about. To say, whenever I'm talking about open house safety, I've done an open house. I know what it's like. And to your point also about just the practicality, being realistic with what we're putting in front of folks, is I know the sting of losing a prospective client because I insisted upon meeting in a public place.
Yes.
I know what it's like to how tough it can be with how busy we all are to get a buddy. And so just as part of having some actual hands-on experience in the industry has been a major game changer. But I'll admit, I had it right whenever I was growing up watching my mom do it. It's a tough job.
It is a tough job. It is a very tough job. And you know, we focus a lot on women because we really are a little bit more vulnerable. But men, are you finding, you have to be careful as a male as well in this industry, right?
Excellent. And part of my presentation is I show a screen of 12 names, all males who have been victimized. This year, the victims of real estate have been males. I think 2 males have been killed. Males have been assaulted. They have been robbed at gunpoint. So I wrote an article for REALTOR magazine about 4 ways that male agents put themselves in danger. It was one of the most read articles of the year because it's not talked about. People don't think about male agent safety. And males, I don't know, and I interviewed them and it's like, why don't you think about safety? One said it's the machismo factor. How many times have I done a program and males will say, I'm 6'2" and 225 pounds. Try getting women to tell their weight, right? And so all of them brag. They say, you know, I'm a big guy. I don't worry about it, or I don't think about it, or I'll accompany the female agents. It's like, you need to be paying attention too because the target is on you now. For whatever reason, male agents right now are being victimized.
That is crazy. One of the things that you mentioned in your session is a book that you suggest other people read.
That book should be required reading. The author's name is Gavin DeBecker. He wrote a book called The Gift of Fear. And The Gift of Fear talks about survival signals every animal in nature has. Human beings are the only ones who ignore it. And that's to our detriment. And that's our gut. That's our intuition. And that should be required reading for everyone.
I will ask you both because this is such an important topic. Any takeaways that you can give to agents as we're thinking about practicing day to day?
2 takeaways. One is we must learn from the lessons of agents who came before us, who were victimized. Beverly's story resonates. She did a couple of things right that real estate agents need to pay attention to. First and foremost, her gut told her something was wrong, and I interviewed her office mate, and she told me Beverly questioned that, so her gut told her. She acted on it. Number 2, someone knew where she was. Her husband knew where she was, so he was able to go directly to her when she didn't come home, and he knew something was wrong and could get law enforcement officials involved sooner. So agents need to follow principles and practices. They need to do it on a regular basis. Number 2, after I was told that agents won't take safety training unless something happened, I had to think of how do you get agents to show up? An education director said agents only show up for training where you teach them how to make more money. So I had to find a way to make real estate safety profitable, where agents come home every night, and secondly, where they can add it to build their business, lead gen, whatever it takes to make more money. So I teach agents how to add value to the relationship with the consumer. Serve the consumer, protect yourself, and then you build your business, and everybody makes it home at night.
You know, I always, of course, I live with the grief and pain of the absence of my mom in my life, and so the tips that could have helped keep her safe in the circumstance that she was taken from us are always top of mind for me, in addition to the wonderful things Tracey said. But I truly believe in the way that my mom was targeted and victimized, the predatory behavior that was performed. They would have, in my belief, moved on had they been properly identified and been, made to prove that they had the cash that they said they were willing to, to pay for the home. And so in my mom's situation, I truly believe stripping someone of their anonymity on the front end, which can't even test drive a car without giving your ID over. So if we're going to look at a, $500,000 home, shouldn't be a big deal. So that's really the main tip. And I'll just say one last thing.
Absolutely.
After a decade in the business, my mom was a beautiful, successful agent. Had undoubtedly, I've never quantified it, but the opportunity to serve hundreds of clients. And throughout those transactions, undoubtedly showed, who knows how many houses, in the thousands? Yet all it took was one. Thursday, September 25th, and our family lost our matriarch.
Thank you both very much.